going to be doing a little motor tuning for the Gecko G540 in this video. I made a plastic screwdriver, as you can see here. This is a screwdriver that I made up. Just took a piece of black delrin and I cut a little blade on it. I could stick it in the trim port here. You got to be very delicate and very careful trying to find the pot that's down in there that you stick the screwdriver blade in, and you turn that very carefully, and don't turn it hard. You just turn it gently, and it'll stop when it gets to the end. You can't turn it any further. You don't try and turn it any further, and you listen to your motor's spin. I'll get into that as I adjust it and show you what the motor should sound like as you're adjusting your trim on your Gecko G540. And we'll get right into that right away. Here we go. Okay, I've set my feed rate to 24 inches a minute because I'm using a two-start 10 pitch screw. It's a half 10 screw and it's got two starts, so every revolution of the head we move 200 thousandths of an inch. So when I move the head of the machine at 24 inches a minute, the screw will be turning about 2 revolutions a second. So at 2 revolutions a second is where you're supposed to listen for the sound and see what your motor sounds like, and you're supposed to tune it for the quietest sound. So you can move over here and I'll just give it a little adjustment, and you should be able to hear the motor in the background as I adjust it. It does get pretty loud. And get my screwdriver down in there and take a second to find the hole here. So I got the screwdriver in there. It took me a few seconds to find it. You got to be real careful. Don't rush finding the pot, and don't use a metal screwdriver. You could short something out in there. Now here's the sound going down my head. Now I want to move up. Should be able to hear how loud that gets. You just turn it back and forth, moving your head up and down with your keyboard. So you get it as quiet as you can get it. And that's when you know you have it, when you get the motor running as quiet as possible. And that's what they say, do it by ear and you should be pretty good. I'll show you how I got this the speed to run at 24 RPM using my keyboard on my machine. The way I got my motor to run at 24 inches a minute is I went to the configuration file the top of the screen, and I moved down to MotorTuning. And on MotorTuning I went down to the velocity in inches a minute, and I click on that box there and I put 24 in there. 24 in there. I tabbed over once and you see the screen change. The MotorTuning, the screen shows that max speed now is 24 inches a minute for my motor. And I move over to my save settings and I save it. And I do that for each axis that I want to change to the MotorTuning. You always got to remember to save your settings or you won't be able to, the thing will revert, is what I should say. It'll revert back to whatever it was. So every time you change one of the axes, if you change the x-axis or the y-axis or the z-axis, first click on X, change your velocity, then click Save Settings. Then move on to the next one. Hit Y, change your velocity, and then Save Settings. And do that for each one. If you don't save settings, everything here will revert back. But now I just changed the X-axis. Click OK. And now my X-axis is moving at 24 inches a minute. And it kind of shows down in here, but I don't know how well you'd see that on the video unless I zoomed in, but take my word, it's running at 24 inches a minute. It's kind of overriding it and keeping the speed down. And that's an easy way to do that. And you can just use your keyboard arrows to move your axis while you're doing your motor tuning. Do that for each axis, and you'll have it running as quiet as you can get it. And that's all there is to motor tuning, really. And now that I'm done with motor tuning, I'll go back in my configuration and go to motor tuning, bring that screen up, and I'll go down to where I want to be. And you'll find that sometimes you can run higher. This is your maximum speed, like your maximum speed your machine will run at. And I'm going to set mine at 125 inches a minute. The speed of my computer and everything, that seems to work the best for me. Motors sound the best and everything. I've found that sometimes I can miss a step at 150 inches a minute. You could fine-tune that if you want and play around with it and find out how fast you can get your motors to run. Right now I will do that for each axis that I did change. I'll save the settings, move on to my y-axis. I didn't change that one, so that one's okay. Now my z-axis I have to change. I'll put 125 in there. Yep. 125, I'll hit tab just to make the screen jump to the proper setting. I'll hit save settings and I'll hit OK. And I like to go back into my configuration file at the top of the screen, jump down to the save settings at the bottom of that menu, and save all the settings. Just in case, I like to make sure that it's saved everything in memory in the computer, so you won't forget. The reset button will start blinking once the settings have been saved. And just hit that again and you'll be able to move your motors. And now I should be cranking along at 125 at rapid. And that's how that works.